Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. You've got Harry as host today. I was missing last week, but I'm joined by the wonderful Ewan, Ryan, and Liam. It seemed last week we didn't really do the how are yous, but you know I like to do the how are yous. So Ewan, how are you doing?
Good, mate. Yeah, good. Busy Monday, but hey, we're through
Yeah,
it.
no,
We're through it now. I was driving home and I was already like, oh, it's only like just over a week till next Friday. I feel like as soon as you get over Monday, like, that's it.
I don't know about this. I don't know if it's the same as you guys, but down south there's been a lot of bank holidays of late, so Monday working isn't something I'm actually quite used to. So it's been a bit of bizarre being in today. Liam, how have you got on?
Yeah, doing good, mate. Doing good. All hunky dory.
Hey, and Ryan, we see a bit of O'Neill's on the top. What top you got on there?
Donegal, GA top lad. My father's side of the family are from Donegal, so showing the colours. Just whilst we're speaking here, I've been informed that I need to give a shout out to McCurdy Transport Limited. Need to thank Richard for the use of the big Audi. It was fair comfortable. It was like an armchair in the back there, and Craig was the driver for the day. So yeah, it was good. Good trip up and down. Other than not taking the 3 points.
It's a strange conglomerate butcher turned taxi firm, but here we are. Uh, yeah, no,
Well,
it
it
seems
was a free service as well, so I can't really complain.
very nice, very nice. But yeah, no, well, let's dive straight into the game. I think realistically, ahead of the match, the way that the results panned out, we probably would have taken it at the start of the day. I don't think any of us going into the game would have been felt we would have been annoyed coming out the back of it with a 0-0 draw. Um, Liam, we'll come to you first. But what was the immediate emotion after the game, and what's the emotion now? Has it changed at all?
I think the immediate emotion after the game was disappointment, and not disappointment at all at the performance, just disappointment at the outcome. I think the outcome was we had quite a good chat on a couple of weeks ago about the difference to the outcome and actually your emotions as a result of the performance. And it was one of those ones where it's probably as good a performance as I've seen a Hibs team put in at Pittodrie in memory, to be honest. But then not to come away with anything, and if anything, we didn't lose ground on any of our competitors, but we didn't gain anything. It leaves a real sour taste in the mouth, to be honest, and that sour taste hasn't really left me since Saturday.
Ryan, we'll come to you next. You were actually at the game. Talk to us about the kind of in-stadium atmosphere and how it kind of panned throughout the game, and then what the feeling was as you left the stadium.
Um, I was sitting in a bit. I wasn't sitting. I was standing in a bit that doesn't have a roof, so I wasn't right in the mix. Myself, Craig, and your sister Bex, but there didn't seem to be any kind of angst or anger during the game. I think everybody was quite happy with the way that Hibs were playing and creating chances. Um, Time after time, we seemed to be able to breach them quite easy. We played some nice stuff, so there wasn't so much anger that the ball wasn't going over the line. I think everybody was fairly happy and confident that eventually we would score. Good spirits at half time. And then at full time, there wasn't any kind of real disappointment in the sense that they were angry about it. They were just more kind of miffed at how we didn't actually manage to win that game of football, given the level of performance that we put in. I think statistically, not that I read too much into stats, we probably beat them on every count. And then the old eye test, we were far the better side. So it's a bit disappointing not to come away with 3 points. But I think prior to the game, me anyway, I would have taken a draw at that point. However, after the game, it's a wee bit harder to take.
And you and with that result and Hearts result combined, realistically, we weren't caring about the Old Firm because that was a dud game.
Yeah.
How does the league shape up for you for the rest of the season? Do you have with the performance, do you have the confidence we could potentially pinch the points off the Old Firm we need to push into for fourth, potentially third, or does that kind of have you felt deflated on that front? You just kind of think fifths are like ceiling now.
I think it probably goes to what Liam said. Like, I was disappointed at the time, and I think the general feeling amongst the sport was almost disappointment to anger. But I think as the time goes, it goes from disappointment to optimism. And I still think fourth is in play. I think we can take points off the Old Firm. And I think we can beat Hearts on the last day of the season. So I think we said at the start of the split you want to be going to Tynecastle with something to play for, in the sense of fourth be that third place, fourth place. You want something on that game, and I'm pretty confident that there will be something on that game still. I don't see us getting cut adrift. I don't see Hearts gaining more than 3 points on us over the next two games. So I do think I know I've seen one of the questions come in, but I do think we'll finish this season pretty strongly, and hopefully carry a little bit of momentum into the summer. Be that a third, fourth, or fifth place finish. Like I think we could finish the season well, but still finish fifth. Like that's the reality of it now.
Liam, you looked pensive as if you were going to say something.
I wasn't really going to say anything directly to what you just said. I just think I'm very nervous about giving us too much credit for one good performance in isolation. If I'm honest, I thought we were good for 45 minutes against St Mirren, and then professional for the other 45 minutes. I think we still need to judge this season and the success or otherwise of this season based on how we finish these last 3 games. These are vitally important to how this season will be remembered. We saw under Jack Ross when we lost that final game of the season against St Johnstone. Yeah. Everyone wrote it off as a terrible season, understandably, because it was a cup final, but maybe less understandably given how we would finished in the league. I'm not going to talk about our cup performance again because I've done that each of the last 3 or 4 weeks on this pod, but I do think there is some for me around how you finish the season. Could we get a couple of maybe, I know everyone likes this term, so I'm going to use it, statement victories. I fucking hate that term, by the way, statement victories, but statement victories, I think would help us massively. And it would help how this season's remembered.
It's what gets fans on side, isn't it? And if you can finish the season with a home derby win, obviously that's already in the books, and then even just, you maybe come away with 4 points from the Old Firm games, then, and you don't lose at Tynecastle, all of a sudden people are going, we've actually performed pretty well in the big games. If we can take care of the other games, then, that's where that optimism would come from.
I also think from the perspective, and Harry, fair play to you for mentioning this the other day, I don't think St Mirren will be thinking the season's done yet either. I think they'll be feeling pretty harshly done by as a result of what kind of played out in their game on Saturday. So I could potentially see them picking up something against one of the Old Firms. So, we simply have to get results from the last 3 games of the season. Like, we have to get some results. So it still hangs in the balance a wee bit for me this season overall, but also how I feel about Hibs just at the moment in general. I didn't quite feel the same wave of optimism. I know friend of the pod, Euan, tweeted at the weekend. I saw it. He said about, can we all now just agree that B Johnson's really putting something together at Easter Road and things are great, or are going to be great next season if we get our recruitment right. And I was a bit like, I'm getting there, I think. Like, reluctantly, I'm getting there, but I can't say that I completely share that sentiment.
Yeah, and one thing I said, like, when we were like kind of previewing the split, was my mindset was I think we should go in, like, this is before we even knew the fixtures, and I think we've got potential to win every game until we play one of the Old Firm, and then I think we'll lose out the rest of the season. And my main concern is I think we played pretty good first half against St Mirren, obviously not so great second half. Aberdeen, very good all over. A bit disappointed we didn't win. Not, as I said, not out of expectation, but out of how good we actually performed. But now we've got Celtic and Rangers back to back, obviously home games. But the worry for me is we end up playing Rangers, start off well, they score, heads go down, we end up losing like 4-5-1. Then we go into the Celtic game, but looking a bit deflated, get beat 3-0, and then go into the Hearts game, you've got no momentum at all. But that's me being very negative. But based on what Lee Johnson's done with him so far, I agree with Liam. I don't want to use one game as the benchmark of saying, the whole season's forgotten because we're one good game away.
There's a cliche there about something making a summer that I can't remember, so I'm not going to say it.
One swallow doesn't make a summer, or something like that.
What are you chatting about? Anyway, guys, it's come to that. It's come to that time. It's my favourite time of the whole week. We're getting on to listeners' questions, guys. Listeners' questions. Let's get into it. So, because we mentioned him, Leon, you're getting a lot of love today. But his question is, will Hibs finish the season strongly? So, taking it, like, let's just go back on ourselves there. But Ryan, I'll come to you first. Kind of forgetting that last conversation. In your opinion, can Hibs or will Hibs finish the season strongly?
There's definitely a potential there for us to finish strongly. Going into the game against Rangers on Sunday, I think I say this every time, but especially Easter Road, they're there to be got at. I know they've just come off the back of a good win against Celtic for them, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't go and kind of stamp our own authority on the game. Although we didn't score there against Aberdeen, we can certainly take that performance on. So they're up, get that one out of the way, hopefully take something from it, and then kind of kick on from there. It would definitely give us a platform to go and do something.
Ryan, we might only have this podcast and one more left in the in the season. Come on, get off the fence. Are we going to finish the season strongly or no?
Fucking, I'm showing you my workings. Coming for the guy that usually does about 90% of the talking. So do you want me just to say yes, we can, and then that's it?
Right, so
That's a
now
bit too
start
Bob the
talking.
Builder from Alec, and
No,
so
fair
didn't say
enough.
that.
That's my answer. That's my answer. Bear in mind, I didn't cut across him, but there we go.
Euan, you've jumped across, so you have to make your point now. What are you saying?
I would suggest that 3 points across the 3 games would probably be about par, potentially. I expect us to take more than 3 points, so I think we'll finish the season strongly.
Liam, you went a bit in depth earlier, but give us a short and snappy version. Will we finish the season strong?
I really want us to. Fuck it. I'm going to be positive. Yes, we'll finish strong. I think we'll get 2 wins from our last 3.
See, just to expand on what Ryan said there as well, and I'd be interested to see Ryan and Liam's thought, and yours, Harry. I find Rangers won at the weekend. That was them proving their point. You know, that they went out there a point to prove. They obviously got Celtic at the right time, but that was their season ultimately. Like, for me, I think you're probably playing them at the perfect time. Lunchtime kickoff the week after. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they reverted to type a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment in terms of the preview for the Rangers potential Celtic game as well, because I'm not sure if we're going to have time to squeeze in a preset. No, we should actually. But yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more at the end of the podcast. But it's a good point, and I agree. But yes, moving on to the gentleman, our lovely Greg, who couldn't make the podcast tonight because he's feeling a bit sore in the old tooth department. I think he's got wisdom teeth coming through. Is it?
As Greg would say, he definitely needs to grow up.
And the thing is, Greg, it's your job. Come on, what's going on here? But he's asked a few questions, so I'll give him a question each. Ryan, coming to you. No, actually, Ryan, I'm moving that. I'll come to you because you typically have the best memory of us all. No offense to you, Ryan, but if someone says memory, I'll go to you. And Greg asked, when was the last time Hibs played that well but didn't win?
I don't know, mate. I've seen people.
All right, well, you failed me on that question. Ryan, coming to you. Now, what is there any performances that the 3 guys can think of that had actually played really well but didn't end up picking up the 3 points?
People said the Derby game in January, but I didn't buy into that at all. Not this season. Genuinely, I don't think we've played that. I think we're about where we should be in terms of performance and points this year. Up until Saturday, I don't recall coming away from many games this season saying, how the fuck did we not win that? Maybe the Melkerson game against Dundee United last season, but that might be purely because the chance he missed.
Nah, it's just a chance thing. I was going to, and this is going to be fucking really unpopular, but I think with the benefit of hindsight in your rear view mirror, I think the semi-final at Hampden last season, I thought we were good that day.
The Hearts one?
Yeah.
Wait, no, was that last season?
Yeah.
Any from you, Ryan?
No, I probably agree with Liam.
I've got 2 corkers, but they're a bit more old school. The cup final against Ross County, I've never seen us batter a team like that, apart from the semi-final against Falkirk. Hibs literally annihilated Falkirk that day and somehow didn't win. That is honestly the most livid I've ever been leaving a stadium, and after a good performance, I just could not believe we didn't win that game. I think
XG wasn't popularised then, but I think our XG was about 28 that day.
Well, Alan was absolutely world class that day.
And if I'm not mistaken, the reason we lost is because Scott Allen somehow accidentally found himself at like right back for about 10 minutes, and then they put a ball in the back post. It wasn't his fault. It just ended up happening. And I was like, oh my god. Yeah. Let's forget about that. Sorry, guys, for bringing up dark memories.
Get up, Falkirk, by the way. What an absolute... Their arse fell right out of them at the end of the
season. You'll love to see it.
But Ryan, we'll come to you. Just how good is Joseph Newell? You had the in-person action at the weekend.
Very good player, yeah. Neat and tidy.
As short and sweet as we do. And Liam, we'll come to you. 12 yards out, who you currently giving the ball to?
This is going to preempt a massive debate, and I kind of joined before you started recording, and you were talking about it. I'm going to be honest, I had no problem with Kevin Nisbet taking that penalty the weekend. Not a problem. I didn't know, in fairness, until now that he'd missed 4 in a row. But if you don't back your number 9 to score from 12 yards out with just a goalkeeper, it'd be you probably shouldn't be the number 9 at your club. I think, unfortunately, what happens is with law averages, sometimes players take back penalties and they don't score. But Martin Boyle's fit, he would take it for me. And I'm going to disagree with someone else in the pod. I think after him, it would be Paul Hanlon for me. I know we had a laughing joke about the Diags, but if you look at the penalties that he's taken and penalty shootouts, they've all been of a very high standard. So I think Nisbet, Boyle, Hanlon. The Joseph Newell shout's a bad shout. Joe Newell does not convince me at all with his shots on goal. How many goals has he scored from midfield in his time at Hibs? I wouldn't have him anywhere near penalties, to be honest. He'd be lucky to be one of the 5 in a penalty shootout. Sorry, really long-winded answer, Harry. But Nisbet, Hanlon, Boyle. Then I'm struggling.
Controversial, but I disagree. I don't think. I think that penalties, in my opinion, are quite a different thing. Because, like, I would say, for instance, on that one, I think that Joe Newell's a much better striker of the ball than Paul Hanlon is, and then you've got Paul Hanlon ahead of him. But I would agree that Paul Hanlon would be my choice over both of them. And I know it sounds daft, but I think that someone like Euan Henderson, I think, would have taken a good penalty. I think some players just strike me. I know, but some players just strike me as good at taking penalties. I know it sounds daft, but I'm a massive fan of storytelling in football, and I think it pays off more times than it doesn't. Harry McCurdy, I would 100% have backed Harry McCurdy to score it. I don't think he's a better player, and I don't even think he's a better penalty taker. But I think with that moment, I think he's a guy that feels he's got a point to prove, and I think he would have done something with it. That's. I know it sounds daft, and I know we've probably talked the bad of Harry McCurdy quite a lot in the pod based on performances this season, but I think, for me, Kevin Nisbet, like, just the sticking point of that Hearts penalty being such a big magnitude of the game it was, for me, I wouldn't have went for him in such a pressure situation. But yeah, but we're on to Kevin Nisbet now, so we'll start talking. We've had a few differing opinions on him. So Jack Kell said, does Nisbet hold his spot for the next game, not just the penalty, but thought he was poor out. And then we got a disagreement on that from Jeff Ashton, who said a lot of negativity around Nisbet. But apart from the penalty miss, I thought he led the line really well. Where do you guys stand? I personally thought that Nisbet had a really good game at the weekend. I thought that his hold-up play was nice. I think he probably should have scored from open play a couple of times as well, being honest, aside from the penalty. But I'm seeing a lot of frustrated people. What's going on, guys?
You know.
I do know. What did
Usage
I say?
of the word nice.
Nice. Oh, God. No,
Yeah,
sorry. But yeah, we'll come to you first on this one. Kevin Nisbet, is there any potential of his nice performance getting him dropped from the team?
Nah, like, I don't know if it's since that sort of the transfer stuff in his first season. I think Nisbet's been judged to a standard that a lot of Hibs players in their career never really has been. Like, Nisbet will leave Hibs with a pretty good goal record, I think, in the summer. His hold-up play, his link-up play this season's been excellent. He showed that at the weekend a few times. So I think, did he kickstart the move for Euan's early chance, I think, maybe, in the first half, which were a very similar piece of play that set up his chance against St Mirren last week. That obviously he's ballooned over the bar. Like, oh no, he's went a couple of games without scoring, but his goal record speaks for itself this season. And he will be a miss, and he will be hard to replace. And he's like, yeah, his goal record, other than last season, but his first season and this season, he's been excellent for Hibs, as far as I'm concerned.
And Ryan, thinking of Kevin Nisbet, would you say he's been Hibs' best striker in the last 10 years? Is there anybody you think would eclipse that?
10 years is a long time. Definitely the last 5 years, I would say. If I was to think 10 years, I'd need to sit
because
there.
I was thinking
about
potentially Griffiths might sneak in there. I don't know if he fit. Was he 2012 though when he was last at Hibs?
2013, mate. No, 2013.
he only really had one good season, Griffiths as well.
Because I was just thinking about it there when people are saying, like, I've seen people be like, I can't wait for him to move on. I think it was a bad penalty miss, all things considered, but I thought he had a good performance, and I think he's a fantastic player.
People miss penalties. It happens. Like, even the biggest players in the world miss penalties, and they're not then turned on by their fan base. I'm not saying our fan base have turned on him, but it seems to be a knee-jerk reaction, because on the whole, he's been a really good and consistent performer for us. on Saturday away from home in Aberdeen, he led the line perfectly. You know, he was strong, he held off defenders, brought other players in, gave the team a chance to get up the pitch. I thought he was really, really good on Saturday, barring the penalty miss, which, like I said, can happen to anybody.
Yeah. And Liam, I'll let you round us off on Kevin Nisbet for now. What's the verdict?
He's been very good for us, apart from probably a brief spell last season. I think he's been very good for us, and I think his all-round game's improved massively while he's been at Hibs. I think we've seen that, particularly this season when he's come back. He's looked a more complete centre forward to me. I hope I do hope he leaves in the summer for his sake, but also for the club's sake. I think it's time for him to move on, and for us to get value out of the asset. Without wanting to be too corporate about it, I think it's now time to sell. I don't want another Poach's situation where he's still hanging around here, but he goes with the best wishes, and I wouldn't say no to having him back in the future as well. I think he's been very, very good. I think probably best striker in the last 10 years. Actually, thinking back, other than maybe Stokes, who only did it in really a handful of games, I think you'd have to say over a consistent period, he probably has been the best in the last 10 years. And we've not been blessed with a lot of great centre forwards, so it's maybe not too much of a compliment. But I'm a big fan of Nisbet's, and like I say, I do think some of the overreaction, Ryan's spot on. I think some of the reaction since Saturday has been OTT, to say the least.
I think the fact that his first season and his best season, his only full season, was in COVID has played part to why. Because I don't feel like Kevin Nisbet's had that admiration of the Hibs fans that other players of his like have had. Even Doidge in that
season, in that same season,
and then you look at a Canberra when he first came in, even like fucking Mark McNulty or whatever. So I don't know if it's because his poorer season was when we could all first come back to the football. I don't know. For me, I don't think Nisbet, when he moves on, is going to be massively missed by the fan base, but I think come the first game of next season, we're all going to. I'm a huge fan, but
yeah, as it always is with these things, context is important. I think also in football, luck and moments are really important. Like he scored that goal, put us 1-0 up at Ibrox, which was a massive turning point for us last season. Massive turning point. Ryan Porteous goes and gets sent off wrongly. I think we're all agreed on that, and we're going to lose the game. I don't think a striker can sometimes help how his goals are or aren't remembered. No one's going to talk about his hat-trick against Hamilton in years to come because it was a game behind closed doors that was kind of ultimately meaningless. Strikers can only do what they can do in terms of putting the ball in the net, and I think he's been a very, very good servant to Hibs. I know a lot of people have said the thing about him wanting to leave that 1st January and he was here. To be honest, I don't mind it.
I think there's also we need to remember that he's just bounced back from an ACL injury, and in my eyes, he's probably come back a better, more rounded player. He's definitely bulked up upstairs. His hold-up play's become better. He's so much stronger, and I personally think for somebody to bounce back in that way from an ACL is quite a big deal.
Mm-hmm. It's like without Kevin Van Veen, Motherwell would be relegated. Without Kevin Nisbet, we'd be in the bottom 6, and that's not an overreaction. You can. Do you know, even if you want, I don't agree that he cost us 2 points at the weekend, but if you want to go down that route because he missed a penalty, then fair enough. But he absolutely gained us a point against Dundee United. He gained us 2 at Motherwell. Maybe even 3. We probably would have lost that game if he hadn't scored the hat-trick. So it's been quite disappointing, really, hasn't it? And if you want to talk about moments, like that goal right after Rangers equalised at Ibrox to put us 2-1 ahead before the cameras hadn't even caught up. Like Liam says, Nisbet's scored in a lot of big games and probably hasn't got the credit he deserves.
And he scored the one against Hearts, so that's always a good one. But moving on from Kevin Nisbet, it feels like we've just kind of given him a memorial service. You never know, he might sign a 3-year deal, he'll be here forever. But one last Kevin Nisbet question, I promise we'll move on, and I'll kick us off with the answer. So Cammy Fife has said, if Kevin Nisbet is sold in the summer, who would you like to be his replacement? And welcome to Hibernian Football Club Championship Player of the Year, Deepo Akinyemi. What a signing, Hibs. I'm all on board. I'm all on board for it. I know you guys. I don't know Ryan's opinion. I know Liam's not too keen. I know Greg's not too keen. I'm unsure on you, but I'd love a bit of Akinyemi. That's my big. Have you guys got a target in mind if Nisbet does leave?
the ideal replacement for me is already at the club, although his season's been kind of injury plagued. If we get a decent fee, there's no reason why we can't try and reinvest that in Kukarevic.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good shout.
Nah.
But he's injury prone. That is the.
Yeah.
I know. I've not got like a deep knowledge of players that we could bring in that would be feasible. I see Kevin Van Veen's been bandied around, but he's going to be 32 soon. And not that I'm against age or anything like that, but on you go.
No, sorry, Ryan. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I know you're not happy with being cut off tonight. I don't know if any of you follow. Do you follow Ed Norval on Twitter? He's wrote a few articles for Hibs. He posted a really interesting list a few months ago, and I was just trying to find it, and I've now found it of like, I suppose, strikers that play in obscure countries. So I would recommend that you go and take a look at it. Maybe we could post it out with the episode. But like, there's a guy, I really like the sound of this guy, Ondrej Ilic, who's 22 years old and plays for RFS, who, if I'm not mistaken, are the team that Hearts played in the Europa Conference group stages. There's just some really obscure names. He's obviously done a bit of research into it. I want us to go and see and sign someone different and interesting. I don't really want Kukarevic back next season on the basis that he's been available for probably less than 50% of this season. I think that's enough of a sample size to say no thanks.
Aye. Maybe a good rule of thumb for Brian McDermott this season would just be sign players that haven't missed 50% of the games over the last couple of years.
Hibs' theme is signing injury-prone players, if you think about it, though.
I think every club thinks that about their players, to be honest. I do think every what about him? Like, we always think we've all got the worst injury problems at anyone, but the reality is it's probably similar.
Same as ref and decisions and stuff as well. On you go, Euan.
I think I even said it in January. I wouldn't mind us going to sign Kevin Van Veen. Motherwell talk about life. No, but I think like the Motherwell manager said, life-changing money and all that, right? So we sell Kevin Nisbet for what, £3 million or more, probably. You could probably. I don't want to be a cunt, but you could probably get Kevin Van Veen for just over 6 figures. He's got a year left on his contract. Couple £100,000. He'll be on pennies at Motherwell compared to what Hibs could pay. I wouldn't be happy with him being our sort of sole option, but I wouldn't be turning my nose up at someone that's proven over a 2 or 3 year spell that he can score goals in the league, personally.
One thing I've noticed with Van Veen is he does seem to be quite adept at defending from corners, so I think he'd be a great Dodge replacement.
He's had a very good season, hasn't he?
I hope the answer isn't recalling Dodge and sticking him in
there. I might be making this up, but it feels like Van Veen scores against us every time we're at Fir Park or not. Like,
well, that's because he scores against everybody whenever they are. All right, boys, we'll do a bit of a change of pace. Jack's been good for sending. Jack Kell, that is, has been good for sending these random questions. But he's asked this week, what are 3 of your favourite, not best, so this is ones you like the most, not the ones that you're saying are critically acclaimed, films of all time? His are The Batman. I think he needs to give us a bit more context because there's a few films called Batman. Grease and The Blues Brothers. Blues Brothers, great shout out, Matt. Good job, Jack.
Grease, what a film. Oh.
Have you got 3 that are jumping to you? First to mind in terms of enjoyment, I love a bit of Austin Powers. Probably the first one's the one I go to because I think Dr. Evil's funniest in that one.
I'm really not that into like I'm not into Marvel at all. I think, but Batman's DC. I think. Is it Dark Knight Rises, the one with the Joker?
Yeah.
Big fan of that. The Harry Potter franchise as a whole. Just pick a couple of them. That's where I'm at. That'll do me.
Ryan, yourself, films?
Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino.
There's definitely a type there, Ryan, isn't there?
There's a sense of theme with Ryan there. All right, Liam, yourself?
I'm going to say some like really beige films that people probably aren't that big a fan of, just to be different. Good Will Hunting is up there for me. I think that's an absolute epic. Everyone says Shawshank, it's so cliche, but it's probably the first film that I really ever kind of properly like fell in love with. It's like a proper epic. And do you know what's a very, very good film? But I think goes under the radar a bit. The Departed, such a good film.
Oh, good. Martin Scorsese.
Do you want me to astonish all you here and say I've not watched any of the films that Ryan or Liam just mentioned. Mate, honestly,
You've never seen Good
But
Will
you,
I've
no,
seen this.
guys, you've not even seen it. It's Lord of the Rings you've not seen.
I
Eh?
hate Lord of the Rings, mate. I say this to genuinely everyone. If you name 10 random films, I've probably seen max 2 of them. Genuinely.
What is it? Have you seen Star Wars?
I've seen all the Star Wars except the Disney ones.
Okay, so you've seen like the first 6, like the original 6. All right, well, okay. And
Thank God for that, eh?
That's another podcast.
Fucking hell. Thank God for that.
And just so we're not too movie orientated, Jack, I hope you love how much we actually put into these questions. So I'll give you Austin Powers. I'll go Reservoir Dogs. So Ryan's got a bit of a theme there.
Nice.
Very good film if you've not seen. And then I had another one in mind I was going to give a shout to. I don't know why it just came to my mind, and it'll piss people off because it's the wrong time of year. I like Elf. Elf's a good, like, feel good film. So there you go. Get a bit of Christmas in your life.
I think it's a wee bit overrated when it comes to Christmas films, though.
And
Bad
I
Santa's
think
the best Christmas film. Billy Bob Thornton.
I'd agree with Ryan on that.
What did you say?
By a mile.
Bad Santa.
Bad Santa.
Oh, Bad Santa.
He is kick-ass in it, like.
I might not have seen many other films, but if you were to name 10 Christmas films, I've probably seen 11 of them.
I was about to say the exact. And you know what makes me smile so much? The most unsuspecting, biggest Christmas fan on the planet is Greg, and I'm so sad he's not here to mention.
What do you think
Greg's
Greg's favourite Christmas film is? The Holiday.
Not The Grinch. Come on, surely.
The Holiday.
Nah, it's
Miracle of
Christmas
34th
Carol by
Street.
the
Honestly,
Muppets or something.
genuinely, did I just never ask him because you'll be with him for about an hour just listing them off. I'm gonna, while he's not here, and he would accept it. Greg, he might know, but Greg absolutely loved The Greatest Showman when it came out. Honestly, loved it. I'm just gonna throw him under them. See as I got about Willy Wonka and that. Greg adored that when it came out.
It's a really funny image, Greg being camp, eh? Greg sitting down to watch Eurovision on Saturday night.
It's
some Bacardi breezers.
The Roy Keane countenance nodding along like, yeah, that's it, son. That's it. It's some boy, Greg. Oh. But let's go back to Hibs. Thank you, Jack, for the question and letting us unleash our inner selves there. Mason Forrest said, based on the performance at the weekend, is this progressing signs that once you give a manager time and not give them the sack, that things can actually improve? I think we did touch on that a bit earlier. I think that in isolation, yes, it was a very good performance. But in my opinion, I think we've had a lot of good performances followed by a lot of bad performances. So again, I'm not going to lay my hat anywhere at the moment, and I'm still kind of holding out to see how the next 3 games go.
I feel the same way about Hibs as I probably did 4 or 5 games into the season. So we started the league campaign pretty well. I might be, like winning at St Johnstone, and was it then Hearts at home? Like I think we got beat at Livy, but I thought we were going in the right direction at the start of the season, and then so I probably feel the exact same way now. But it probably shows that managers need more than 6 months. But to the same point, Lee Johnson said he only needed 12 games. So it's difficult, but it shows that they need longer than 6 months, and yeah, he's going to be here for at least another 6, you'd think. At least another. He's definitely getting the start of next season, probably till Christmas time, and hopefully he builds something. Really, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I think that's anybody else anything to chime in there?
No. I was just going to say I think the narrative would maybe change a little bit if we were to lose the next 3 games. I think the viewpoint on it might be a little bit different. People would maybe be less inclined to have him at the start of the season.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Totally. I think we all want a manager to stay and have stability and be here for a few years, but we need something that we can believe in without wanting to be too corny about it. Like, we want something to really get behind, and we need to see evidence of progress. And at times this season, it's not been linear. Like, we haven't been progressing all the way through the season.
We've
been
been
dips.
there.
So I think we all want. I would love a manager to stay with Hibs. See, for how Aberdeen fans got really sick of Derek McInnes after, what was it, 7 or 8 years? I'd love to get to 7 or 8 years as a manager and get fed up with him after that, and have stability and have players, and start complaining about stuff like brand of football, especially when you've never been a good footballing team in my entire lifetime. Talking about Aberdeen, by the way, no as. So I do think there's something for me there about just like wanting to. I'd love to build something, have a sporting director, football, whatever their title is, just hang around and keep continuity and have the same players. And just bring in 3 or 4 every season instead of having this revolving door of 15 guys coming in and 9 out of contract and all these players leaving in January when there's things. I would love things just to be fucking safe.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I want Hibs to go out with a girl next door, just a really safe, nice girl. It's going to be maybe a little bit dull at times, but she's going to be good to you. She's not going to cheat on you. She's going to look after you. When you're ill, she'll bring you a cup of tea in bed. I want that kind of relationship for Hibs. I don't want Hibs to go out with a girl that you're waiting at 3 o'clock in the morning to find out whether or not she's coming back home to you or not.
This season has probably been quite similar to the season, especially what Ryan said about the last 3 games there, for me, to that season where Hecky took over for Lennon. Started the season, we started to feel good, then Lennon went on a massive slide, everyone was shite. Hecky came in, we were dreaming of 3rd place again, but then in the split, I was like, I think we lost the first game in the split, and it was like, right, okay, we're definitely not going to finish 3rd. Then we lost again, and it snowballed from there. Like, if Johnson does finish this season strongly, if we do take, let's say 5 points, right? Let's say we end up going through the split unbeaten, 2 wins and 3 draws. I think everyone's going to go off in the summer feeling pretty good about themselves, probably, and all of us would be fairly happy with that. Be that 4-4 place. Like, it really is a big. I think Johnson and Newell did reference it's a huge week next week. It really is. Which I suppose that's what you want for the last week of the season. You want to be in games that matter ultimately, and if you come out the right side of it, maybe it doesn't matter how you got there.
Well, I think we've kind of spoken about Lee Johnson enough. However, we've got a few comments we've kind of addressed, but I'll always, whenever anybody sends us things, and I'm always keen to let them be heard. So Lindsay Gibson asked, do you back Lee Johnson? We kind of just answered the fact that we think he's going to be here inevitably, so it doesn't really matter too much at the moment. But then he said, I just can't get on board with him again after the amount of shit he spoke this season. Worried the 4th or 5th place just leads to another year of this mediocre shite, with there being every chance he gets punted halfway through next season. That's definitely something we've discussed and don't disagree with. But yes, no, I think that's valid. And then Heidi Pessimist said on the performance, initially deflated at not winning, but that level of performance gives me more hope than any other this season. We absolutely dominated a team that have been in great form, especially on their own patch. If we maintain that level, we will win more often than not. Just unfortunate that the next 3 games have to come against team number 1, team number 2, and our biggest rivals. But yes, no, I think another valid point. So thank you for that, High B Pessimist. But then again, let's go for a change of tack here. Jaden asked thoughts on the appointment of Brian McDermott. We'll come to Liam first. I always like to go to Liam when it comes to like director of football-y questions.
Right, he's basically saying that's what he said there.
No, if it's a tactical question, I go to Ryan. If it's a memory question, I go to Euan. If I want a snappy reaction, I go to Greg, because Greg's always good with the one-liners. But if I want a like board level, I don't know what that is, board level question, I go to Liam. That's my
tactic. So you're saying he's more intelligent than us then, yeah?
Well, at the moment, I'm saying you two are more childish than him. So Liam, please take the floor.
I'm really happy with it, to be honest. In terms of his CV and what he's done in the game, and I think he's really as good as anyone we could have gotten in terms of that. I'll admit to being a wee bit underwhelmed by his press conference. Just some of the things he said. I didn't think he came across as. So he's either not hugely media savvy, which would surprise me given the jobs that he's done, or I just thought some of his answers were like a wee bit woolly, and there was maybe not enough clarity in exactly what he was going to be doing. But I think in terms of his CV and what he's achieved in the game, I'm very happy with it. I do think there's this niggling thing at the back of my head, like when he said I'm here to basically, his role was to mentor people and to coach them. I was like, no, that's not what a director of football does. I mean, it's part of what a director of football does. I mean, my thing with the director of football would be that they're ultimately responsible for the playing personnel that are the club at pretty much all levels and all age grades, and ensuring there's a pathway and an opportunity some of the younger players to come through, as well as bringing in players where we've got some gaps, and working with the manager. And I do still think it's a bit of a partnership, as we've talked about previously with Lee Johnson. But aye, impressed by the CV, maybe not as impressed by some of the media or the two bits of media that he's done so far.
And Ryan, well, we'll call you Mr. Intelligent since you so wanted to be called. So.
Not just me, Euan as well.
I know. But Ryan, do you agree with Liam's stance there that in terms of his like accolades ahead of coming to Hibs, that he seems like a good man for the job?
Yeah, actually agreed with everything that Liam said there. I thought when I watched his press conference, he was quite unassuming, and that's maybe just the way he is. That's maybe just his personality. He didn't seem to kind of go into depth about what his role was going to entail. However, his track record and his CV probably does more of the talking than what he did in the press conference. And time will tell what work he's going to do for us. We'll see the results, hopefully sooner rather than later.
And it might be coincidence, but some good news I'll get the other guys' thoughts on in a sec as well. But Josh O'Connor and Murray Aitken signed down to deals. Do you think that's anything to do with him coming in, or do you think that's just coincidental and something that's good to hit the ground running?
Oh, absolutely coincidental, Harry. But your job, that's great PR though, isn't it? That's PR. Like I quite enjoyed his press conference. I've not, but then I think I enjoyed it at the time because he just didn't make an arse of himself, having listened to Lee Johnson all season long. But he was a bit non-committal on some things, wasn't he? And I think he spoke in the hospitality or something. Maybe I've made that up after that. Was that?
He did. He spoke in hospitality. It was a minute.
I've not listened to the podcast yet, but I've seen a few people that generally, like, trust what their views, if like generally don't always talk a lot of shite talking about it. And I think there's some people that are yet to be convinced by sort of his answers to questions and stuff. And whilst his CV is good, he's never done this role before. The one thing I don't have issue with him is referring to Johnson as the boss, because I think he might just be meaning that in the sense of he's the manager, and I don't think I think people are going, oh, he's referring, like, he's not McDermott's boss. I think he's just referring it to, like, because he will sign players that the manager wants. Like that, I'm pretty sure fucking Joe Savage would have said the same about Robin Nielsen or whatever, like, before they left. So that's the one thing I'm not concerned about.
And just one more thing, and then we can move on from McDermott. One thing I liked is the mentality thing you kind of harped on about a couple of times when it's with bringing players into the club. It's not just about bringing in the right ability; it's about bringing in the right characters. For me, that's something that I always find that the Hibs teams that we connect with tend to have a bit more success on the field. It might just be coincidental that you like the players that play well, but I always do feel that a good togetherness in a squad's really helpful. Like, I think chemistry is a huge thing in football, so that was something I really liked. I just wanted to put some positivity on Mr. McDermott's head. So yeah. But yeah, no, just before we move on, we've not actually got any questions in about them, but Josh O'Connor and Murray Aitken, very happy to see them sign on.
Yeah, aye. But yeah, definitely. And I think hopefully Airdrie get promoted and they go and have good seasons in the Championship.
Yeah, I don't know much about Murray Aitken, but I think Liam and Greg have seen quite a bit of Murray Aitken over the course of the season. I don't know much about him. I obviously know more about Josh O'Connor, but yeah, happy to keep two young prospects on longer term deals and go and play more regular football at a decent level now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I want Airdrie promoted. I'm not really sure I'm that bothered, to be honest. I think if it meant they were going to play in League One and get more games, I think that would be more beneficial necessarily than going in the Championship. And Airdrie potentially bringing a lot of players. I do think, by all accounts, I've heard that Rhys McCabe, his Airdrie side, play pretty good football. So I think that would be good for them to go and play in a team that likes to keep it on the deck, because I think a lot of teams in the Scottish Championship and League One, if you look at particularly their players in the forward areas, it's knock it up to the big man. And I don't mean to be unkind with that, but I think we've all seen it the last couple of weeks watching some of the Championship and League One games, that the standard football might be okay, but the kind of football that they're playing is It's
Dico
tough watch.
Akademi's ripping it up.
Well, one of the most limited centre forwards I've ever seen. No, I'm joking. He's not that bad, but he is limited.
Limited, but he'll bang in the goals. On the go, Euan.
Sorry, just I can't remember where I heard it, but Reece McCabe, I think they got 1 or 2 players sent off against Edinburgh City, and he'd started in like a 4-3-3 or whatever, like a really attacking formation. It was like a centre midfielder or a centre back or something that got sent off, and it was like first half. And he came out, they ended up getting beat 6-1 or something, and he came out after the game and went, I don't care. I'm not changing my philosophy. Why, like, we still played to win, and he just didn't change it. Like, even though they ended up getting beat like 6-1, I think it was, and it got like 4 or 5. He was like, nah, what's the point, basically? And like, he still wanted to play on the front foot and stuff, which, you know, maybe that's naive as a manager, but it probably does go to, that's probably a good place for your, especially like a Josh O'Connor, to go and try and develop. If it's a manager that just wants to, you know, get the balls into the box and score as many goals as possible, then for a young striker, that's only going to build their confidence, you know, regardless of how, you know, Airdrie could, if they did get promoted and finish bottom in the championship, but Josh O'Connor still scored 15, 20 goals, then that's what's going to matter. It's like for him, Aitken, I'd be lying if I even said I knew what position Aitken was. Was he the captain or was that Blaney?
He was the captain for pretty much all of last season. I think most of the first half of this season as well. He's sort of he's centre mid, kind of, I suppose it's probably box to box if you were going to pigeonhole him into one area. I've seen him play a wee bit further forward, and I've also seen him play in that sort of pivot role, taking off the centre half. I think both of them, maybe Aiken more so, I think both of them have got a bit of physical development that needs to be done as well, and I think that's a good league to go and do it in. I'd rather they were doing it in that league than they were doing it in this new fandangled Conference League, which we won't even open up that can of worms today. Let's not open up that can of worms.
Josh Campbell going on Airdrie like when Ian Murray was there. Did I made that up?
He went to Arbroath, certainly.
Or was it maybe someone else? Like, I feel like he played at Celtic Park for it. Did Ian Murray manage Airdrie or have
Aye, until last season.
But obviously Murray Johnson's went to this season as well and done well. So, you know, maybe there's a little bit of relationship starting to build there. And given that Murray Johnson was successful, hopefully O'Connor and Aitken, hopefully there's like an element of guaranteed games or something in the agreement. Because given they've signed them already, knowing they could still go up, you would think they would be in the plans regardless.
True.
Yeah. And then we'll go for another fun question. Guy Incognito, they did ask about Lee Johnson, but we've answered that already. And he's, what is the best bar snack? By bar he means pub, not like biscuit. He's going for scampi fries. What's the best bar snack, guys?
The same as the scampi ones, but the bacon ones are good, but they're so salty.
That makes you drink more. That's smart pub tactics, getting you drinking. There you go. Ryan, what you saying?
Probably old fashioned, but I like a good old salted peanut, like dry roasted, eh?
The way you said that was fucking so funny.
You just gained about 30 years when you described that, by the way. Oh my god.
It was like the arm got extra, like the arm went like extra, like as if it was on the table in the pub. Like.
Really no good. Like honestly, give me a pint of heavy and just some dry roasted nuts, like.
Liam, you're what were you saying?
I enjoy a dry roasted peanut, but I think shout out to Kitty O'Shea's. I enjoy a pint of Guinness with a bag of potatoes. Can you beat a bag of potatoes?
Oh, potatoes, my man.
I didn't want to be they want to be what you're talking about, but my favourite crisps are Tato barbecue saucers. Oh my god, they are unbelievable. I think Golden Wonder do a similar one, but the Tato ones are unreal. They sell them at the shop just down for my work for like £1, and they're like the sort of larger size bag as well.
Joe's quality when you're on holiday. You're on holiday somewhere. It can be just about anywhere in Europe, and you just go onto the balcony and you just open a can of whatever, or a bottle, whatever the local lager is, and just wire into a bag of paprika ruffles. Ruffles are just
everyone goes on about Fanta Lemon and Lay's, but Liam, you fucking nailed that there. Whatever the local can of beer is and the paprika ruffles, unbelievable. 3 weeks in camp.
I'm devastated. Liam stole my Tato shout. I was gonna say it, and then my two Irish living friends, in particular Ryan and Liam, were going to be very impressed with me. But my shine has been taken.
You've learned a lot from Leah already. I can tell.
I have, mate. I have. Don't you worry. But also, I like cheesy chips, like see loaded cheesy chips. I think that's good. Like, but if you're getting drunk, especially, like, that's a good like tide you along
What was
type
it
of
you
snack.
ordered for the week before this?
It was like loaded barbecue fries. It was like barbecue with like I didn't end up getting any what do you call it on it. Didn't end up getting any chicken with it, but it was like
Have
barbecue
I made
fries.
that up?
Good,
Was it?
good
I
stuff.
thought you got nachos.
Oh no, I did get nachos.
I
It
was
was another
natural
time.
fries.
I know you're natural fries. Was it? Oh God, I
I
wish you
I
were.
was natural fries. They were good, to be fair.
I
They
know
were
they were
nice.
tasty, like tasty.
Last ton, expensive
Aye.
things, but good food.
But see, the good thing is, if they actually want us to get a positive conversation going on this podcast, forget about Hibs, just start talking about food. We're all
Oh,
over
here, I
it.
got a meal deal today. I got a meal deal today if you want it.
Save the meal deal. Save the meal deal. But we're going to talk about someone we mentioned on the pod already, but some of your guys' favourite player, Harry McCarthy. Nah, I need to stop being mean. But Josh McIntosh said, "How unlucky is Harry McCurdy?" Full stop, not even a question. And then Hibee Trucker, what a guy, said, "How good was McCurdy's volley?" I'll start by saying it was an okay volley, and I don't think it's unlucky. I think it's a shame. That's how I'd phrase it. That it didn't go in. As I say, if I was him, I would have been trying to wrestle Nisbet for the penalty just to try and prove a point. And even if he didn't end up taking it, at least we would have saw him try to. But yeah, it's one of those ones for me. I think slowed down, it definitely looks like a penalty, but at normal speed, I'm not convinced. What do you guys think about it?
Red card, never mind the penalty.
Not intentional though.
I don't care. He stopped the ball going in the back of the net.
Fair.
I don't know if that's the rule or no, but it should be.
Liam Ryan, would either of you say that was unlucky for McCurdy that it didn't go in?
Probably was unlucky. It was good technique. It was good technique. I thought he was unlucky. It's probably the best effort he's had. Next time in a Hibs shirt, he was unlucky.
Poor Mr. McCurdy. And then also there was a controversial, like in my opinion, Roos was definitely off his line when it was taken, but it was one of those ones. If it was a better penalty, I think he would have brought it back, but it was that bad a penalty. I think he just thought, leave it.
It feels
Yeah,
like
the foot on the line, unfortunately.
it feels like that would have been the type of goal that the Harry McCurdy compilations at the start of the season were full of. Like, you know, like just
smashed him back
he did
post.
catch it really, really well. Like he really did. It was bad. It was unfortunate, and it just summed up the day, didn't it? That was Ryan. Other than that, was he involved at all?
No, I'm not going to lie to you. I think he maybe had a couple of times where he done that thing where he cuts inside and dribbles across the pitch to kind of no effect, no real gain of kind of position on the pitch. But other than that, he was fairly quiet. Like, I need to say this: there was not a couple, but there was a section of our own fans that booed him when he came on, and I don't really care what happens kind of off the field or whatever. You should never boo somebody wearing a Hibs top.
At least not on the pitch. Boo them fucking off.
Yeah, just no, 100%. I like fucking you and Greg kicking off at Livingston, but if a player's coming on to try and do his bit, because ultimately that could have flown in the back of the net and won us the game, you know. Like, so if you're preempting that he's gonna fail before he comes, I'm just not a fan of booing guys that are going to come on and try and do something for the club that we're following.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And if he did boo him, grow up.
You're a nice guy.
But next we'll go Jeff Ashton. He asked, has CJ let Diving Duke out his back pocket yet? No, but he seems to have kept his hammy. Is that a bit much? Is that a bit much?
No, it's absolutely not.
Yeah, might have crossed the line there. Oh well. But yes, and then Green River asked if you were allowed to sign only one of the two loanees that hasn't been signed, so he's forgetting a couple because I think we've got about 1 billion players on loan. But essentially, he's asked, would you rather sign Fish or Egan Riley permanently? I think if there was no finances involved, I'd personally be biting your hand off for Egan Riley. But I think financially, I would take Will Fish.
Egan Riley.
It's a difficult one. For me, I think the centre-back thing's more of a priority just because we've got a couple that can play at right-back. But Egan Riley can play centre-half as well. I think he's a more rounded footballer than what Fish is, and he's more versatile. So I think that in itself has value. So I would probably go for Egan Riley.
Yeah, Egan Riley. I think he's going to have a really good career. Really good career.
And just to confirm for anybody that's wondering, it's not at all a slight on Will Fish. It's just kind of the level that I think we all agree that we can see Egan Riley getting to I think surpasses that of Will Fish.
We've
I
seen
don't think
Egan
that's an
Riley
unfair
playing a
comment.
little bit more glamorous positions as well than centre back. You know what I mean? Like I know that is like you. I thought he was good at centre mid. I think he's been good at right back. He's probably only struggled when he played that sort of right back, right three at the back. But nah, I think Egan Riley looks like a proper player. Like as
Yeah,
does, but
I've
Egan
argued
Riley
with
was
Craig.
colossal on Saturday. Like he was phenomenal. He was
I've
phenomenal on Saturday.
argued with Craig a couple of times. I wouldn't sign Egan Riley if he was signed as a centre back. I know that's not the type of thing that happens in football, but I like Egan Riley, but I just think his strengths don't equate to that of a centre back.
nah, I think one day he's going to be a. Do you know what? I was just about to say something. I think he will end up at centre back, but
Maybe in his 30s.
Yeah, but I think he'd be wasted there. I do. I feel like that's probably where he'll end up at centre back. But I think that as a midfielder, like I think
100%.
he's just more than capable in that sort of
100%.
even being a two or as a what is it on his own. Like I'm, we're not going to talk about the midfielder that, but I think he would be more than capable of playing number 6 on his own. Like
100%. 100%
Totally
agree with you. I was just waiting for you to say the number 6 role. He's quite stocky. He's athletic. He's good on the ball. He can read the game. He's got all the attributes needed to play in that position and play it well.
You've seen it from the first game. Was it Ross County away? He came in, was his first game, and he was just been very, very good since then. Has he missed? Has he been on the bench at all? I don't think he's missed a game.
I think so.
I think he's been subbed. I think he's been subbed a couple of times, but he's just been very, very impressive. And you know, we've seen enough sort of lower league England signings in a January window where they come and do nothing.
Well, we've currently got one at the club that does nothing. So, I mean, if you were to compare the impact that they've both had, Matthew Hoppe versus versus Egan Riley.
I was racking my brains. Like, I feel like someone like a Fish sign, and generally if it's a season long one, you generally see more of an impact. But I think Egan Riley will be an absolute massive miss next season, just for the flexibility that he offers the rest of the team. Like you're with him in the team, and with him and Diego playing, you've probably seen the best of Doyle Hayes in the Hibs top, the best of Joe Newell for a long time. Chris Cadden's probably been better over the last month than he had been all season, playing further up. So he's going to be a massive miss. We really, really will need to replace him with a good right back if we want to kick on next year.
Yeah.
And speaking about next year, I love my segues. Archie has asked, if we are to qualify for Europe, which country would you like to go to? All right, Ryan, we'll come at you first. Get the globe out. It's spinning, but it's just a European globe that doesn't exist, but we're going to pretend it does. Where do you want it to land?
So, me and your sister and Craig were talking about this on the way up in the car on Saturday, and they were saying like these sunny, glamorous places like Ibiza town and Spain. No, not Ireland.
Where in Ibiza you're going to get a game of football?
Ibiza.
They're second division.
I think it's just hypotheticals, but anyway, I really, really want to go to Tallinn, which is the capital city of Estonia.
Yeah,
I just think it would be class. It'd be
someone on the podcast who's unfortunately not with us can confirm that it's an absolutely sensational city. Greg went on a cruise once.
Brilliant. You imagine us riots in Estonia, I'd just get mad with it.
Yeah, we are painting a very camp picture of Greg, eh? Like, you don't get much more camp than a cruise ship, eh?
See, if somebody was listening to this pod for the first time and didn't know Greg, they'd be like, who the fuck is that guy?
I was trying to have a wee look there to see if I could find a tweet.
Potential opponents.
Yeah. I would go down what Ryan's saying, but Bex and Craig were saying at the weekend. Some are hot, really. Do you know what would be ideal? Somewhere where you could maybe tie in something else. Like Spain, Portugal, or that, where you could maybe go and catch another game or something. I know it'd be pretty.
That would be all right. Even Germany, because there's games there like every other day, man.
Just not. I don't want to go to anywhere north of Scotland because it will only be that warm, and they'll be in the middle of their season, and they'll fuck some wee nobody for Finland, and we'll get beat 6-0. Like,
I think what I'm about to say. I think all of you will agree, but I think Liam will agree the most. I don't care where you take us, as long as that place has got a fucking karaoke bar. Come on!
Mate, I thought you were going
Yeah.
to say as long as it's no fucking Elgin in the League Cup.
I agree with that sentiment. I went to Maribor in 2011, 2012. I would love to go to like Eastern Europe again, like somewhere like Lithuania or Latvia or something or Hungary, somewhere where it's a bit mental, the pints are cheap and the weather's good.
How would any of the Budapest teams then? That would be absolutely perfect. Are any of them sitting in what would be Conference League positions? That's
I
what.
don't know. I don't really follow Hungarian football, mate.
No,
So
I know.
I'm sorry, I can't really help you with that.
I know a couple of folk that do though.
As soon as I positioned that as sort of a question, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, absolutely no good.
But Archie, if you've managed to make it this far in the podcast, please do let us know where you would like us to go in Europe. I was going to say we could see what we can make happen, but we're not going to have any fucking impact on that, are we? It's a bloody random prize draw. But we're going to go to Charlie, who's asked the questions that we're probably going to put in a single podcast at the end of the season. But we'll ask them anyway for a bit of fun. But we'll just take one each. So there's player of the season, young player of the season, most improved, and biggest flop. There's also goal of the season, but I've held up three fingers, so we'll ignore goal to the end of the season. Sorry, Charlie. But who wants to take player of the year? Who's claiming it?
I'll take the low hanging fruit. I'll take it.
Go for it.
Yep, I agreed.
×3.
I wanted to be controversial, but I love Big Paul. Go on yourself, son. And then young player of the season, I'll say Josh Campbell. I'll jump in there.
Yeah, just about makes the category.
Yeah, why not?
Aye, that's full house again, I would say.
Just maybe not to waste too much time, but with Will Fish, has he done enough to potentially be in there? Because people say it's only been the second half of the season, but could you say that Josh Campbell's fell off?
I'd say he's fell off the last few months. I don't think he's fallen off since January. I think that's a bit harsh.
That's just really a few games like we're talking about for Campbell. I don't think it's any more prolonged than that, to be honest.
Aye, and then and you couldn't even say he's been bad the last couple of games because he's not really played that much against Aberdeen. You know what I mean? And then I'm skipping goal of the season because I said it would. Most improved player. Most improved player.
Josh Campbell.
Ooh.
Oh, sorry.
Divide.
Well, I'm going to divide as well. Rocky Bashiri.
Right, that'll be forgotten. Someone that isn't Josh Campbell. Someone that isn't Josh Campbell. Paul Hanlon. Paul Hanlon was shite last year. If we're being in the second half of last season, I would say. I think Paul Hanlon had quite a bad. I think Paul Hanlon probably had one of his worst seasons for us last year. And this season, one is better. Truth be told.
That's fair. That's fair.
Well,
I just on the Will Fish one, like I know we didn't have him last season, but when he played at Tynecastle, nobody would have expected him to kind of go on to be the player that he has been for us. So kind of from start to finish point, I think he's massively improved over that course of time. However, Josh Campbell from last season to this has been like a different player.
Yeah, kind of goes without saying with Josh Campbell, to be fair, in comparison. And we were all at the start of the season in unanimous agreement that we should send him out on loan or sell him. So fair play to him for proving us wrong. And then biggest flop of the season. Who are we throwing under the bus?
Harry McCurdy.
Aye, you don't need to say anything else.
Jair Tavares for me.
Oh, number 7.
I'm gonna go for a coin flip. And I
know
there wasn't.
Out there, like, if I could take them both.
I know there wasn't much expectation, but I just couldn't believe quite how bad technically Mamadou Bojang was. Genuinely, how he got signed for a professional football team in Scotland, I honestly do not know. I wish no ill will towards the boy, but he, hand on heart, might be the worst football player I've ever seen in my life. And not being dramatic, I think his shot against Kilmarnock was the single worst shot that has ever been taken in the history of football. Like, it was that bad. Like,
that he shot against Livy, yeah. It's like,
I remember, like, at that point, like, after I think it might even have been like, I think in the Livy game we were still sort of defending it, like, oh, he'd just come on, like, it just felt, and then, because he nearly scored against Bonnyrigg as well, I think he took it down to keeper and I got cleared off the line for a tight angle and that, but the Kelly one, man, wow.
See, the thing is, for me, I used to be quite a believer, if a striker keeps on getting in the right positions, it'll end up scoring goals. No happening. He could be on the line and end up in our goal before it ended up in theirs,
The
honestly.
Kelly one was pretty much identical to the goal Euan scored against St Mirren and the goal Nisbet scored against Aberdeen. And you look how they two finished it pretty much identically, sort of side foot into the bottom corner. And what Bojang tried was something of similar ilk with a completely different outcome.
Mate, if the keeper dived the other way, done 10 push-ups, he could have walked to the line before the ball crossed it. Mental.
I don't think the ball would ever have crossed the line. It was going that slow. It would have stopped.
Oh god! And then
we were really
also
good that game as well, but we only won 1-0.
Yeah, no, that was a good performance. And again, not trying to throw people under the bus too hard, but he's on loan. I don't expect we'll see him ever again. I've not been impressed by Hoppy at all. They had a really cool intro when we announced him on deadline day unexpectedly, and I think he scored once, should have scored about 3 in his first 2 games, and he's just looked really bad at his.
Have I made this up? We announced him at half time.
We did. That's correct. Was it Ross County away, I think?
Aye.
Yes.
When David Marshall got bundled into the net. It was a weird one because I didn't think it was a player we actually needed at that time.
I haven't seen him. I can confirm he's not a player.
I was going to say.
We know that now. Do you know?
Benefit hindsight and all that.
It's a weird one.
Sign him on loan for 6 months. See what they're like. Sometimes you don't need them for 6 months.
Well, boys, one final question. One of our favourite questions. He's not asked in a while, but John, who asked about McCurdy, has come back to us finally, and he said, "Guys, what's for dinner?"
Oh, I've just ate before the pod. Lauren made a homemade Chinese chicken curry. It was fantastic.
Ryan, going over to you.
I could ask, but she's busy working. I don't know. Boss is on the cooking tonight.
Nice. Liam, yourself?
We had, I think, probably what is the last pie of this season, and we had a chicken, ham, and leek pie. My good lady made before we record this chicken, ham, leek pie with mash and greens. And I know we like to talk about greens in this pod, so I'll just tell you what we had. We had monge too. What we like monge too. We had green beans.
No,
they're a different thing. No, they're a different thing. Green beans and tender stem broccoli. Very good.
Tender stem, the best way to do broccoli.
We've started cooking tender stem broccoli and the green beans in the air fryer, just with some.
Oh, right.
So good.
We've got an air fryer.
Just a wee drizzle of oil on them and just salt and pepper, and just come out nice. And almost they've not been barbecued, but not just good, very good.
Liam, it always sounds like you have proper, good, wholesome meals, eh? Fair play to you, like.
We eat in this house, like we don't.
There's a good amount of good cooking.
We don't. We only have like maybe one night a week where we kind of be asked and have like a baked tatty or something. But pretty much every night we cook from scratch in this house, like. Other than when I've made something for 2 nights and we just reheat it the second night, which is fucking tremendous.
No, I think we couldn't be asked. He has a baked tatty, but I can't be asked for ordering about 7 ton of takeaway food.
I'm making a new mental note to myself that I should always ask Liam last when it comes to food because he always knocks the rest of us out the water.
By a mile.
Just a pie. Just a pie.
Aye, but
quite heavy though, Liam, for quite a nice day. Like that's pie, mash. Like that's a lot of.
But by the time you've done your shopping, you decide that's what you're having it. You know what I mean? Like the pastry's been bought. Do you know what I mean? It's going in. We're definitely going to get the barbecues on the go this week. The garden furniture got put out the back last week, so I'm going to be. Actually, the barbecue season is going to be ripe this year. Like,
sorry to totally tangent off, Liam. I've never asked you this since you sent the picture. Is the duck been allowed on the grass yet? You fucking tormented bastard for when you really?
Nah.
Fuck's sake, man. It's horrid.
Poor Doug.
We hate you. But since John asked all of us, I'll actually answer. No, I've been eating like absolute shite for ages, so I got myself a Gusto box. You can slag me all you want. But I'm having a Thai,
chicken and broccoli.
No, a Thai green curry with chicken thighs and creamed coconut rice, and it's gonna be sublime. Had a very nice aubergine meal the other day. Again mentioning Craig, he was giving me pelters because it was like baked aubergine with it was like a really class spicy sauce, and then it came with a pineapple salsa. When you mix it all together, phenomenal. Craig was having none of the pineapple salsa, said I was disgusting as a human, and I was like, fair enough, mate. It was like pineapple, and it had like a few different like herbs in that way. It was really good. Like,
I think Craig's got too many mentions on the pod this week.
Mango chutney, that's the stuff. That is the stuff, man.
Okay. But yes, we've talked a lot about food, talked a lot about movies. But one final thing before we tap off, we won't do a full-blown preview because I think we're a bit over time from what we normally do. But we can do our predictions, Euan, and we'll come to you first. You were mentioning earlier that you think that Rangers kind of had their big hurrah. They've not really got too much in the way to play for. Do you see that being a weakness for them in this game?
Yes, 2-0 Hibs. Fairly routine. Think Celtic when Slivka and Canberra scored.
Yeah, Liam, you seemed in instant agreement there.
I'm going to say 3-2 Hibs. I think it'll be goals. We do like a 3-2 against Rangers. So.
Right, not typically do we get a full house of excitement and positive results ahead of a Rangers game. Are you on the same wavelength?
I'm on the same wavelength for result, maybe not the amount of goals. I think for about the 6th week in a row, I'm going to say 1-0 Hibs. Just low averages suggest that I'm going to actually get one right.
But if you're giving us one goal, who's scoring
it? Will Fish from a corner.
Ooh.
37th minute to be precise, all right?
Sorry, Harry, just totally. How good's the defence been recently, by the way? Again, like, I know, like, for all the, we just so solid recently. Very, very impressed after being fairly leaky prior to that.
Yeah, fair. That's all right. I just feel every time there's momentum for me to jump in and answer a question, Euan's just absolutely speaking about defence. Euan's all over me, like. But it's my last home game I'm going to the season. Unfortunately, won't make it up for the Celtic game, but I'm going up for the Rangers game, and I'm going to be brave. And you know what? I'm going to put my neck on the line. One person we didn't talk about, who personally I thought was man of the match. I thought that Euan was phenomenal at the weekend. I'm so glad, because I think sometimes when players get their permanent deal, they kind of fall off a bit for a couple of weeks. But I thought he wanted to prove why he was here. I thought that Euan looked really impressive. And I'm going to go for an Euan hat trick. I think we're going to win 4-1.
Excellent.
Wow.
4-1. There you go.
Yeah. Right. Oh, well, good stuff.
But yeah, boys, we seem to have covered a whole spectrum of things, from Hibs to not so Hibs and everything else in between. As always, if you've made it this far in the podcast, bless your soul. What a legend. And thanks so much for listening. We'll be back with a Rangers review and Celtic preview next week.
Yep. Cheers.
Bye.